Hey there guys, welcome back for another Heroquest Paint It Like the Card Art video. So this time we are looking at another hero and we are doing the Wizard. Once again, a quick shout out to Two Thin Coats from the Duncan Roads Painting Academy for sponsoring these videos. They were kind enough to send me a small number of paints, or I should say a select range of paints, to do this challenge. So yep, a huge shout out to them. If you want to follow along with these using just the paints that I use, obviously the paints per video are listed down in the channel description, as well as a link to the Two Thin Coats website where you can buy the paints or have a look at the paints. And there are also a couple of affiliate links down there. I believe it's for Element Games. If you use that, it's no extra cost to you, but it does support the channel as we get a little bit of a kickback for every sale made. Obviously, we make a small percent. We get a small percentage of that, the cost of that sale. So yeah, if you want to support the channel and follow along, use one of the affiliate links to buy your paints and supplies. That would be greatly appreciated. So, first of all, I've gone ahead and primed the miniature in grey as always. And we're going to start with the trousers, although I think the cloak might be better just in case we get something on the trousers. No, we'll go with the cloak with the trousers, because the cloak is much more simple to do. The trousers we have to do a little bit mixing. So first of all, looking at it, we can see that it is this turquoise green again, and so what we'll do, we'll mix up that sort of mid-tone first, and then we'll work on getting it to the darker shade. Let's put the card aside. So for that, I've got emerald green here, which isn't far off. You can see it's close to the darker green as it is, and then all we've got to do is add some white to get it up to this lighter green, hopefully. Obviously we'll find that out in the mixing stage. Now it is a little bit darker in some of the shadow areas, so we will mix in some black to darken that up and, you know, dull it down. We'll get that, and then this will be the sort of the shadow and mid-tone, and then we'll get the highlight tone by mixing in some white. So as always, I'm not editing these videos too much. They are so you can follow, and as always, the ball bearing has gone and got stuck. There we go. Got stuck up in the spout, so now we should be able to pour it a little bit easier. There we go. Yeah, that should be enough for now. So we'll get that as the mid-tone, and we'll just apply that straight away. So I'm using an Artist Opus size 1 brush here from the S series. You can use whatever brushes you like for this. I'm just really loving these brushes. Not sponsored, they weren't sent to me or anything. These are purchased out of my own money. The only part of this video that is sponsored is the Two Thin Coats paints. So what we'll do, we'll get this on first. It is quite strong, very green, this one. Oh. And some of this model is a little bit difficult to see. Like I said in one of the previous videos, these models, they're not designed, obviously they're designed to be painted, but the sculpts themselves and the finish isn't designed with painters specifically in mind. They are obviously designed just to be played with on the tabletop. So they're not the best quality you're going to find in miniatures, but they are, you know, they're definitely not the worst. So what I'm going to do is apply this, and then we'll have a look and see how that compares to the shadow on the card. If you want to see the previous videos, if you've not seen them yet, up in the top right hand corner there, popping up round about now, You should see a link for the playlist where you can watch all of these videos. And if you're really into it, you could probably binge watch them. Okay, so you can see on the model, this is what I mean by imperfections that I'm not too fussed about. I've got this, it looks worse on camera than it is, but I've got this little bit of mould line here, and I think it's actually almost hidden now, but along the boot and sort of, you know, there's places where there's mould lines. The reason I haven't removed them is if you watched the previous Barbarian video, when I was removing it with the blade, it cut into the plastic a little bit too deep and I ended up messing up some of the sword. This plastic is very rubbery, you can't scrape it off with a mould line tool, you do need to use a blade, and that just poses too much of a risk. It's a little bit weird to shave this stuff down, so it's only for use in the game, so I'm not too bothered. Okay, next up we're going to apply, or we're going to highlight this. If we have a look, we can see that this green is actually a lot, well, it is a lot more greener than it looked when we apply, or when we compare the bottle. I think the bottles on these, or these bottles, are quite white, if we can see. So comparing that to that green there, I know it's a little bit blurry because I've got the focus for the model, but you can see that this looks a lot more muted than that green. It'll work for the shadows, but it's obviously not going to be great for the highlights and stuff. But this is part of the challenge, is working around and finding out what colours we need to mix to be able to get the correct tone and appearance. Obviously we're never going to get it 100%, but we can give it a go. So take some white. This is the white star, by the way, and then some of that emerald green. That's gone quite pale already, so that's definitely too pale for a highlight, so we'll just add more. But that is closer to that green highlight, or the highlight on the miniature. No, get it right, it's closer to the highlight on the model. Still wrong. Start again. It's closer to the highlight on the card than the green is. That's what I was trying to say. I think I'm going to add a little bit of blue in there. Let's have a look. Where is my blue? So I'm going to add a little bit of the Elysium blue. I don't want to add too much. This is just to try and tint it a little bit more towards the blue way. It's not a strong blue, this one, because it is a paler blue, but we'll have a look, and it is quite a strong one actually. That is probably closer. Yeah, much closer. If we can get the card in focus, so you can see that paint matches much better. So that's going to be the highlight tone, and then the shadow, or we'll do a highlight, so this will be our mid-tone. So we'll get this on all of the surface areas. You can see it's thinned down quite a bit actually, and we'll leave it on sort of those raised areas. Leave it in the recesses a little bit, or leave that original green in the recesses. And you can see once it dries, it's sort of dulling and muting down a little bit. On the arms, we're just going to leave that underside and just focus on the top here. Including in that little recess of the fold, because we're going to use a paler version of this for the very top highlight. Okay, so looking at that now, that is closer to the card art. Obviously we've still got that dark green under there that I need to fix, and we do need to push the highlights on top of those folds a little bit more that are in the shadow area. And again, the models aren't sculpted exactly like the card art. The card art is its own thing. We're just going for the colour match, sort of as close as we can get it. So what I'm doing is just very lightly going over with a thin down, almost like a glaze, over that green, which is just going to tint it slightly so that I don't need to mix up another shadow. So you can see on the palette here, I know it's a little bit blurry, but where I'm wiping and on the camera it looks like I'm not touching anything. There is some thinned down paint there. Paint it on my badly chewed up nail. Ignore that, guys. Anxiety, bad habit. But you can see how thin that is, and that's what I'm applying over that green to just tint it to that bluish colour. I'm not worried about that bit of green there, that's actually on the boot, that's going to be covered. Okay, so now we can add a little bit more white to this and create the highlight colour. A little bit more. There we go. So we can get that on all of these flat areas. Again, couple of coats should do this. Get it on the highlights of some of these creases and folds. And then we'll just put some texture down the front where it's brightest. I know it's not on the card, but it just adds a little bit more to the model. There we go. So the camera is making that look a lot brighter than it is. Let's do a small glaze of this over that area that I want a little bit brighter, and this will also blend it in. There we go. I'd say that's pretty close. Close enough. Okay, next we'll work on the, we'll do the cloak, get that out of the way, because obviously we've got a bit of patterning to do with the, this sort of triangle, oh, get it on camera, this sort of triangle area in the moon and that. So we'll do that last, we'll get this in first. So this one I'm hoping, because, I mean, it's aptly named Sorcerer's Cloak, so obviously it's designed for this. It does look relatively close to the higher colour, but again these bottles are making the colours look a little bit different. Now, I've not actually used this one yet. Now obviously, you know, some of you guys are probably going to be saying they do a triad system. You know, if you haven't watched these videos, you'll say they do a triad system. Yes, they do. I'm using the mid-tone, the the middle tone from the triad systems of the first wave. That was what they sent to me, and it, you know, it creates a little bit of a challenge. But by all means, if you want to just use the colours straight as a triad system, then obviously go ahead and buy that. The got stuck again. Okay, now we're going to want to darken that up a little bit for some of the shadows. So I'm going to add a little bit of black and maybe a little bit of boar's hide. So sorry, the black is Doom Death black, and then maybe a little bit of boar hide for the reddish tint that's in it. And we'll also be using this for the leather. So first of all, let's go ahead and get sort of a mid-tone, get this down, and then we can work up or down from it as needed. So you can see it is a very bright purple, this one. Try and get back in there. Okay, so that's the mid-tone done. We do need, see obviously it's a fairly different purple, it's a bit more blue in this I'd say, but we're just going for something close to it. Let's have a look, we need to get a shadow tone in there, so we'll take a good bit of this purple, a little bit of the black, probably a bit too much actually. Yep. Then again, that's not far off from that shadow area. Let's thin it down slightly. I want to try and do this bit with as a bit of a glaze. So we'll go into the recesses on this, and that's actually probably not dark enough. If we have a look here, although we are glazing, it's going to take a couple of layers. No, that's kind of working. Right, so let's work out where we've got some of these folds and stuff here. See another one there. And then on this side, obviously we've got under here and there, and then one that comes down this way. On the back, quite a few of them, but we're basically going to do anything on the left hand side of a fold or crease, and then we'll sort of feather that out if it comes back up smoothly, or if it's in a heavy crease we'll leave it as a sharp contrast. And then here we can feather it. Now I'm going to blend back over that between the two. So I'm just touching into the base purple there, and you know, without cleaning the brush, and that's just going to mix up a mid-tone in the bristles that I can then blend, and then you'll get a smoother transition. I do want that a little bit darker in some of those. Touch into that, and then we can blend it, and then into that purple, and then blend it a little bit more. Okay, and then we can add, or you know, go into the highlights. Probably quite a bit too bright actually. And then into the other purple thin down, and then we can glaze it and blend it. There we go. And then the same on the front. Apply some of these. Okay, so I think the purple is definitely off there. It's not too far off, but it is. It's a little bit more blue on the card. But yeah, that's not, I'm happy with that. Okay, now for the shirt. So I've got two colours I'm going to be using for this. Fanatic orange and Skulker yellow. And what I'm going to do, because yellow is quite a transparent colour, I'm going to use the Fanatic orange as the base coat. Now, it's not quite the same as the orange on there. We'll apply it and then have a look. We may need to dull it down a little bit. So first one, the Fanatic orange, and yeah, I think that is definitely too bright. Let's add in a little bit of black. This is going to darken it up slightly, but then we're going to add the white and dull it back down the other way. Oh, actually, that might not be. No, I think we need to add some white. It's not far off from the shadow tone. If we have a look, get a little bit on the brush, so we can see there. That's not far off. And what we'll do is grab some white and just mix in a little bit along here. And then we can see how that applies. So you can see we've muted the vibrancy of that colour down rather than brighten it up. And that's what black and white will do. It won't brighten a colour, it will mute it down and lighten it. Yeah, that's actually not bad. So we'll get a couple of coats on this because obviously it's a little bit thinned. Okay, so that's the orange. It's not far off. I'd say it's almost there. It just needs a little bit of highlights, though there are more creases and folds on this than there have been sculpted on the other guy here. So obviously places for highlights is a little bit more limited, but we do need to get a yellow over that, and this yellow is definitely on the stronger, more orangey side. And so, as long as I can get some out, I'm going to dull it down a little bit. Yep, it did. Ball bearing again. So we'll mix in a bit of white with this. And a touch of black, and I mean a touch, and then we can blend it into it, because you're going to get a bit more of a green if you do too much black. A little bit of this orange that we made up. All I'm trying to do is just dull down that yellow a little bit, so a bit more white. Right, that should work. Let's have a look. So, yeah, much closer to it now. So what we want to do first is mark out these triangles, and they don't come all the way down to the bottom. They're like this. So I'm just going to hopefully get a decent pattern going. Just try and do basically a W all the way around. For the moon, now it's a circle essentially with part of it missing. So what we're going to do is outside of the moon, like that, and then the inside. I'm probably obviously going to neaten this up with the orange again, just trying to get that basic half circle shape in there. The stars I'm going to mark in afterwards over the top with the yellow, with the orange, as that will be easier to draw the lines rather than trying to outline the stars. Okay, so that's the yellow. Now I'm going to lighten it up for the highlight, and this I want quite a bit. Okay, so that's the highlights. They're not showing up too great on camera, but they are there. If I go too much bright, I'm going to end up with white on there. Let's see if this will show up a little bit better. There. For the orange, we'll just grab some of that original vibrant orange and just edge highlight some of this front area. Okay, let's get this moon in. So it's basically a C, and then there's like a little nose. Did that a bit too thick at the top there. And then for the stars, we're just going to do some very careful thin lines. Not trying to match them place for place. There we go, we can get it in focus. So that's the move. I'm going to neaten that top bit up. Not happy with that bit there. Get that to focus. There we go. Not too bad. You can see just a little bit of the marking of the nose there. If we really wanted to, we can make it a bit more prominent. Just carefully come in. There we go. And you can just see the highlights on there now. I've got better focus. And along with that hair. There. Okay, for the hair, he is blonde, so we are just going to use that straight up yellow, and then we'll highlight it with the lighter yellow. Okay, so the staff, if we look at this, it looks like it's all gold. I'm not super keen on the idea of having this staff as all gold. So what I'm going to do is do it in yellow with a gold moon and this twisty bit that goes round in gold. And we'll see how that looks. If I don't like the look of it, I can always go over with the gold anyway. I know this isn't exactly like the card art, but I just think that because I use a metallic gold, I think that might be too much. Non-metallic, it might look okay, or true metallic. But I think non-metallic, metallic, it's just going to look a bit too much. May even, if I do it metallic, we've only got the gold, the dragon's gold, but if I'm mixing a little bit of this orange, it might dull it a little bit and we can use that as a shadow. But what we'll do now is we'll move on to the leather and get that out of the way, and then we can do his skin and then finish off with the metallics. So for the leather, we've got this boar hide brown, but I think it is a little bit too reddish, so I'm going to dull it a little bit. And then from that, if I add white, that will give me the highlight. So we'll apply this. Now this is more of the shadow tone than the mid-tone. And we're also going to do this on, he's got his gauntlets and his boots. Or I should say they're not gauntlets, are they? They're wrist guards. But either way, the area around his forearm. Actually, I did paint that green. It was meant to be wrist guard there. And then the same for the boots. And there's the ice cream man. I'm sure the camera probably picked that up. Sorry, the mic, but yeah. Okay, so that's getting there. Just going to wait for them boots to dry. The paint's quite thinned down, so it's a little bit wet down there. But whilst we're doing that, we'll go ahead and get that highlight mid-tone up, so you can see adding white to this, it's just gone very not the brown that we're looking for, he says in the Obi-Wan voice. Although actually saying that, it's not far off, is it? I think that might actually be what we're looking for. So that's the highlight. That's the mid in the middle there. And then, right, so let's have a look. Doesn't want to show up too well. I think it's quite thinned. It looks like there's a square plate on these, so I'm actually going to use that and do it metallic, as though he's got like a metal plate across his shins. Yeah, that's the gauntlets and the boots mostly done. So let's move on to the skin tone. So for this, I've got some dwarven skin. We use this straight as the base coat. He is quite pale skinned in the artwork, so we'll use this as the sort of the base shadow tone, and then we can work up from that. Okay, that's the base colours, or the shadow down for the skin. Let's get to the pale stuff. So I'm just marking in all of the upper sort of raised areas, and also the left hand side, the left hand side of his face. On the right hand side, I'm going to leave it a little bit more shadowed. We do want to pick those lips though. For the hand, because it's going to be slightly in shadow, we can leave the inside mostly in that dwarven skin, and we'll just pick off some of the details on the fingers and the palm. On the outside, we're going pretty much all of it, just leaving it in the recesses between the fingers. Okay, we're going to mix a bit more white in. And this will be the peak highlight, so just certain areas, sort of tip of the nose, across the brow, cheeks, and then chin, and a little bit on the lips. Across the top of the fingers, and then we can do a little bit on the knuckles and the fingertips of this middle finger. Right, and then for down on his chest, I'm just going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to pick off his collarbone and then down the flat of his chest, leaving the neck itself in pretty much shadow. I am not going to dot the eyes because, you know, trying to do that, I think it's kind of pointless. A little bit of shadow there. Let's pull the light this way. There we go. Let's compare that to the card art. Yeah, he's definitely more pale in the card art. Let's have a look and get some more pale on him. Yeah, it's a bit better. Okay, so we've got the gold, the silver to do. He's got silver here and here, and then gold on this and this. Silver down here. Looks like he's got a couple of buckles on the front, so we'll do those as well. And then I think you can't really see them, so I won't bother with doing any texture on the buckles. And then he has got a red headband with a bit of gold on the front. So for that, we're just going to use a bit of Sanguine Scarlet. It's way too thin to put any highlight or anything on, so I'm literally just going to do a red band. Okay, so try and find it now that we've painted over it with the flesh. See it there, and then there's a little bit sort of in his hair. Oh, way out of camera. Sorry guys. Don't worry, I'm gonna fix that little bit of yellow up. Okay, and then try and touch this just slightly on his lips just to get a bit of colour on there. And what I've done here is just touched it in with a wet brush, removed most of it, and sort of let it stain that tip. So let's get back to the hair. Right, I'll put in a little bit of highlight on the hair now that that's had time to dry. So all I'm doing is just using the side of the brush to touch up the, or to catch those raised details on the hair. There we go, that's the hair. So let's do the silver because we haven't got to sort of mess about with any of that. So for that I have, if I can find it, it will be the plate armour. So this one. Okay, so we've got a couple of rings here. The plates on the front of his boots. And if they're not, then they it looks right anyway. What makes me think it is because you've got a very hard right angle that I've just done there, although it doesn't show it on the other part. In this boot it sort of disappears and fades in. I think that doing it does make it look better. Just breaks up that large area of brown, and then there's a buckle there and would be one there, and then the belt buckle I believe is gold. Yep, so the belt buckle is gold. And that will be dragon's gold. Okay, so get the moon, so you can see this is quite a bright gold, and no, it's not going to look right with that yellow. So instead we will do the whole staff in this gold. Okay, so that's the gold, and you can see it's obviously a much more yellow gold here. What I think I'm going to do is take some, if I can find it. They did send me a bronze. There we go, so Spartan bronze. So what I'm thinking of doing is making a little bit of a shadow. No, that's still medium. Right, so that's the Spartan bronze, and what we'll do, get a little bit of it down here, bit of this gold. There we go, that's more of the shadow now, and all I'm going to do is just paint that down, and then on the underside we'll get it. What I might do is thin it to get it into these recesses. They're a little bit difficult to see. Can we paint them in? Yes, I can. So we'll do that then. Get that in here. All I'm trying to do is just make this gold stand out a little bit more so that it's not just flat gold. Okay, so with this we'll paint the upper half, and then the same on the back here, mix in a bit of that gold and blend it in there and there. So I'm just sort of thinking where the shadow areas would be and using that to paint them in. Right, and then finally for a highlight we'll do the opposite. We'll take some of the gold, some of that plate armour, and try and get us a bit more of a silver, a lighter gold. And then what we can do is edge highlight. There we go. Probably doesn't show too much on camera, but it is in there. So there we go, guys. Get them both in focus. What do you think? Did I nail it or did I fail it? We got some stars on there, we got the moon, we got the colours close. He doesn't look far off. I'd say I did a pretty good job of that. I've actually put shadow in them bits and it looks like there's more of a glow coming out of it, but that doesn't matter too much. So yeah, that obviously brings us to the end of the video, guys. I would, just before disappearing, like to thank everybody who is subscribed recently. Over the past month, my subscribers, number of you subscribers has gone up quite a bit, and it makes me super happy and proud to have you as part of the crew, so to speak. So yeah, huge thank you and a warm welcome to you guys. If you've enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button or that like button. If you are not yet subscribed and would love to support the channel a little bit more with us by subscribing, obviously it doesn't cost you anything, this is YouTube, so just hit that subscribe button, and the more followers I get and the more views and thumbs up on these videos, the better the YouTube algorithm works and shows me to more viewers. So yeah, that is the end of the video, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you think, and as always, until next time, take it easy and keep painting those minis.